by a bolt of lightning. A horrific vision came to Volibear's mind. He saw his tribe being slaughtered by terrible ice creatures. At that point, he knew that he climbed down the mountain, but he found the elders standing in his further message. And so, he attacked the elders. Unknowingly, he unleashed a raw lightning hitting held the mark of the leader. He became the head of the Earth Sign, and he allied with Sejuani. A small group of shamans lives in Freljord with one purpose: to protect this land. They live in hidden temples that once a generation, a child is born under a blood moon. Would one day serve as a link between the real world and the spirit world, and as the time goes on, taught him everything he would ever need. The master very often told Udir that he would be tested far more than the spirit walkers before him. And just like that, one very cold winter night, the test arrived. Udir and his master encountered the Ice Witch herself. Knowing against her black magic, he shielded Udir with him. He howled with fury, and he felt the Freljord howl with him. An avalanche came down and took the entire temple with it. When Udir of the snow, the Ice Witch was gone. He was supposed to become one with the beast, but instead, he became a beast himself. For many years, Udir lived in the wilds as a wild man. He wouldn't allow anyone to enter his territory. One day, he caught a scent of a fearless trespasser. He immediately started hunting him down, and when he found him, Udir launched himself again and again and again, but he couldn't land a single blow. Each miss would make Udir even angrier. Exhausted, all Udir could say was boo. Of course, the stranger was no other than Lee Sin, the Spirit Walker, but all he found was a man lost in his ways. And so, Lee Sin took Udir to an Ionian monastery protected by 4 eternal spirits. Udir owed much to the Ionians. He was able to repay the favor when Noxus invaded Ionia. Udir was one of the first to push against the armies of Noxus. With the help of the 4 spirits, no one could stand in his way. Only when the Noxians fled with their tails between their legs, Udir quelled his rage. Shortly after that, the spirits of Freljord called to Udir. The great evil was on the move, and he was the one to stop it. He knew that he couldn't do it alone, and so he joined the strongest. And this is how the Winter's Claw became the most Hope you enjoyed these stories. I would love to hear which story was your favorite. For me, it was without a doubt commenting, and in general, thank you for your. Hello everyone and welcome. We've talked about power, we've talked about magic, and we've talked about blood. I think it's time for a bit of science that is also interested in science. These 2 cities are the main sources of inventions, which also means new weapons. As the conflicts between Demacia and Noxus became worse, Piltover stepped in and they offered their help to Demacia. Of course, because Demacia was now armed with science, Noxus stood no chance. And so, Noxus made the only logical decision and teamed up with Zone to counter science with more science. Demacia used the help of Piltover to protect their citizens. On the other hand, Noxus wanted nothing more than bigger, better and deadlier weapons. Only one man in Zone could produce that: Professor Warwick. Warwick was an expert at producing chemical weapons of mass destruction. Not only was he an admirable scientist, but he was also an excellent hunter. He was able to track down and capture his own human subjects for his horrific experiments. But, as Noxus demanded more and more weapons, he couldn't do everything on his own, so to speed everything up, he took Singed under his wings. Warwick taught Singed everything he knew. Together, they were able to double the production speed. Every time Warwick left to hunt down more subjects, Singed would continue the research. Warwick even told Singed to experiment on himself if they happened to be out of the subjects. By that time, Noxus started their campaign against Ionia. So of course, demands were higher and higher, and Warwick had to go hunting more and more often. So Singed was left to experiment on himself most of the time. After few months, Singed's body was both ruined and sustained. He could no longer feel pain. Even in this state, they were not able to satisfy the needs of Noxian military. But Warwick had a plan. Singed was no hunter, but he was strong and fast. That's exactly what Warwick needed. So Singed wrote down a formula for a potion that would turn Warwick and the recipe required 3 critical components: silver from Shadow Isles, the fang of a balefire direwolf, traveled to Ionia, and he tried to capture Soraka. But Soraka is a being guided by the stars, and simple traps won't fool her. She discovered his plan and she drove him away with powerful magics. Warwick traveled back to his laboratory. Fugue started working, transformation, but the potion was missing the celestial essence that would stop the transformation in time. It was too late. Warwick left his human form behind to become a werewolf. Warwick was excited. He immediately started testing his limits. Each day his instincts would become sharper, but his human half would slip further away. He caught his prey every time, but many times he failed to bring it back alive. Warwick realized that he started losing himself to the beast inside, and he knew that there is only one way out: dance and devour it. I know that Sion may look like a place of pure evil, but it actually never really was. Yes, a lot of weapons were researched here, including the creation of Zack, but the scientists quickly realized only one person can take the credit for all of the work. Unfortunately, it wasn't Victor, but it was Professor Stanwyck who stole all the credits, and later on he even used Victor's research to read human emotion how to fix it. Instead of improve humans by turning them into robots. After some private time, his research was complete. Hextech augmented and improved 80% of his body. Initially, people were skeptical about his work, but as the time went on, everyone realized that Victor really was better in every way. Some people were amazed by his work so much that they wanted to join his ways. They also wanted to be part of the glorious evolution. And so, if Zone ever decides to go to war on its own, now you know that they will not only have powerful chemical weapons, but they will also have a cyborg army. Keep in mind that the characters we've talked about here are not the only citizens of Zone video. I hope you enjoyed the talk about science, because this won't be the last time we do this. I want to thank everyone for, as always, this evolution. And I hope everyone is enjoying the champion.
Hello everyone and welcome! I know you are all waiting for Jin's lore, but I decided to give Riot few more days to fully complete his story, because as of now, there are some serious holes in his lore. So instead, I present you the story of Alon, a Noxian adventure's letters addressed to his love Marina. It all began with Alon's arrival in Belzoon. The goal of his adventure was to prove himself worthy of marrying Marina, as well as to make cartography. His for their arena. He told Alon to draw an accurate map of Shurima, as well as anything and everything of interest, especially the wildlife. Elon really did draw everything he could, but his real motivation was not that it would have huge value to Noxus, but the fact that there are 3 golds. During the first few weeks of his travels, he found a dealer selling an ancient stone map. He knew that the dealer was obviously a Tomb Raider or a thief, but he didn't care where he got the map from, because with that map, Uncle asked for. Few more weeks pass and Elon's caravan decided to as Bell Riders. These people were trained to scout ahead and warn the rest of the caravan of any approaching threats. The caravan master also purchased few dozen Psychorashai, or Sandwalkers. These poor people would walk beside the caravan to attack the caravan. The Sandwalkers would be released to serve as a bait. With their caravans fully equipped and ready, they left the safety nets of bigger cities and marched into the southern desert. These lands were known for being home to the beasts called Zersai. Soon, Elon learned about the Zersai, a few Enkasul goats. Its body starting as it decomposed at an abnormally rapid rate. Elon wasn't able to learn more about the species. They decided to buy a giant bee in the arena. Soon after that, Uncle Vilius sent them a message that told them to focus on capturing one of the Zersai alive. He has promised Elon 300 seconds.
Sir?
Elon was filled with at that price. He could return home much sooner than he hoped for, but he was also worried, because while he was on his journey, Marina's family was trying to introduce her to Gendon Belgaunt, another man hoping to marry Marina. Soon the caravan entered. This was the heart of the. Because of that, no unnecessary. That meant no laughter and no conversation. Few days later, one of the smaller Zersai attacked them. Fortunately, the spotters saw it coming and they were able to deploy the spearmen in time to kill it. Elon was sad that they didn't capture it instead, but he couldn't blame the guards for killing it. The deeper they ventured into these lands, the more often they heard the story of Rek'Sai. Went through that, realizing the beauty of life and his love to Marina. After few more days of walking across the desert, they finally found a place where they could rest at least for a few hours. They found an empty outpost that was supposedly ruined by Rek'Sai decades ago. Normally, Elon would think that this was yet another superstition, but after walking past the bones of thousands, all those legends. The next few weeks, the letter that arrived after that explained what happened. Elon arrived at a burrow of Rek'Sai. He explained that the void inside that burrow drew the Noxian soldiers close too late. The void brought them to the edge of insanity and made them fall inside to turn away before it was too late for him too. But he made a mistake when he refused to look away from the events that followed. Rek'Sai emerged from the burrow and brutally ripped the Noxian team in pieces. Elon had no he saw that day, but one thing was certain. No sane leader would ever send his soldiers to capture such a beast only for amusement. That's why Elon decided to leave his past life behind and start a new life near the borders of Demacia. He understood that Marina probably moved on without him, and that she was most likely going to marry the other man. So as their wedding gift, he sent them the stone map. Journey ends. Before I end this video, I need to tell you something special. I put this video together as my way of supporting the Poor Julia event. I can't stream, so I can't support this event directly. So instead, I am going to point some of you guys in its direction. If you don't know, put together and organized by Foxdrop. It's called House of Duco Tau. Our story begins in the sewers beneath Noxus. Here soft and weak, so stealing from them was not an easy task. But over time, Talon mastered the art of thievery. He became a serious threat to anyone who stood in his way. Soon, Noxian guilds sent assassins after him with a simple message: join their ranks or be eliminated. But none of these assassins ever returned. The guilds started sending more and more dangerous assassins after Talon, until finally one day Talon met an equal opponent. After a long battle, Talon was disarmed. To his hand or life as an agent of the Noxian High Command. Talon chose life on the condition that his service was not to Noxus but to Duco Tau alone, for the only orders he could respect were from the one who defeated him. For the next few years, Talon remained in the shadows, going out on secret missions on Duco Tau's orders. These missions took him from the freezing lands of returning from one of his missions, General. No one really knows what happened to the general, but since he was gone, his daughter, Katerina, became the head of House Duco Tau. As a child, Katerina could do anything she wanted. Being the daughter of a Noxian general opened up many different paths, but in the end, she rejected all of them and followed the path of the blade. Her father gave her the best training he gained by the finest assassins of Noxus. It didn't take long, and Katerina demanded. Her task was relatively simple: assassinate a low-ranking Demacian officer. But while she was on her mission, she discovered a camp nearby. Without hesitation, she changed her plans and she stalked her new tent. There she quietly dispatched his guards and she slit his throat. Pleased with her impressive kill, her pride faded away when she realized that while she was away, her original target led his forces to ambush unprepared Noxian soldiers. They fought back, but furious at her mistake, Katerina returned to the officers' camp. Unfortunately, silently was not an option. Katerina drew her blades and she swore the office hitting anything that moved. At the end, one final blade found her target and finished her task. Bloody and bruised, Katerina barely escaped the Demacian forces and returned to Noxus as a different person. The scar that she earned that night now serves as a constant reminder that her duties are above everything else. But her past holds one more story worth mentioning. Demacian soldiers are known for fighting to their last breath. Katerina met in battle with Garen, the might of Demacia. The infantryman who beheld this event said that it seemed as though the two were locked in a mortal waltz set against a symphony of clashing blades. No one knows what happened after the battle, for no one but Garen survived. When Garen returned to Demacia, people started speculating that the reason he survived was because a relationship with Katerina. This relationship was never confirmed, but it was hinted many times.
No love is impossible. My god demands you follow your desire.
That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Like down below, or possibly comment below what story you would like to see next. Thank you all for all of your support, and as absolutely always, thank you come again. Hey there! If you are... Hello everyone and welcome! I haven't done one of these discussion videos in a while, so I think it's time for another one. But this time, I don't think I will be able to avoid burning myself. Today I want to talk about the flaws of League of Legends in general. I wanted to make this video over a half a year ago, but points I am going to make, I decided to go for it anyway. Before I start, I have to say two things. Number one, even though I talk about video game design a lot, I am not a video game designer. This is something that interests me. I love reading about it, I love going through the dev posts, but in the end, I am not a developer. Number two, I am a gamer. I play all kinds of video games and I respect them equally. I am not the kind of guy that would blind. I probably wouldn't be making videos about it if I didn't like it. Some of the problems I will mention in this video may seem like minor issues, but they still bother me way more than they should. One final note that I want to add in, I am not going to talk about balancing issues or anything in that regard, because that can be easily fixed. With all of that said, we can finally begin. Let's start with some of the smaller problems that League has had ever since its release. The marketing. Some of you may be purely a business thing that has nothing to do with the game. That is a false statement and I will show you why. Do you remember the famous League of Legends theme music? Some of you got it immediately. I will give you a few seconds to the rest of you. Still nothing? Alright, let me play. It's weird, isn't it? Some people got it immediately, while others had no idea that this even is the main theme of Riot used to play 1 and halfway through Season 2. So if you still remember this song, you are probably an old school player. In fact, the last time Riot has ever used this song in their client was during the Snowdown Showdown in 2012. After that, Riot has abandoned their old main theme and went with a new theme for every season. In my opinion, that was Riot has amazing ambient music in-game, but you can hardly have it because it is hard to remember. To give you better perspective, I opened up a list of what is considered to be the greatest games of all times. Among the best we have Ocarina of Time, Tetris and Skyrim. All of these games, yes, it is something that is not part of the gameplay, but it is definitely something that connects the players with the games. And here is what I mean by that. For those of you that played these games, that was some serious nostalgia kick, wasn't it? Talking about music, I want what Riot should have done. Riot should have done what Blizzard is doing with Heroes of the Storm. Blizzard decided to use one main theme for the entire game, but they change it depending on what the event in-game currently is. For example, this is the class. And this is their Diablo version theme. Ever hyped for League of Legends more than, let's say, Fallout 4. I am not a huge fan of the Fallout series, but I think it is pretty safe to assume that most of you hyped for something new, like a new champion, for example. But because Riot gives us such a small chunks, when they finally arrive, the hype just boosts people. The only thing that you can really get hyped for are new maps. But we know how it is with Riot and new maps. That happens once every 2 years or so, and since the last one was released with the Bilgewater event, I think it is pretty safe to say that we will wait a while. As I said before, the main problem is that Riot gives us something new in really small chunks, so we usually go through everything in one day. Imagine if instead Riot released chaotic, but let's be honest. Now, my main point, and pretty much the reason I am even making this video. Earlier this week, CNBC released an article saying that the digital gaming sales hit record $61 billion in 2015. League of Legends alone earned $1.62 billion. I wanted to say this half a year ago, and I still want to say it now. What is Riot doing with all that money? I know I will get burned alive for saying this, but think about everything I say before you post an angry comment. League of Legends is not moving anywhere, is not good at all. If you look at the Season 2, and then you come back and look at the current game, you can notice that you are indeed looking at the exact same game, with a bit more polygons here and there and a few more champions. It almost feels like Riot realized that they are the biggest game ever, and because they don't want to drop, they don't want to do anything risky, so instead they don't do anything. I am pretty sure that is going to be their downfall. I don't think that Riot tells us the full truth whenever they say that they don't have enough resources to do something the community wants, and as League of Legends of Warcraft have to put out roughly 100 new NPC 3D models, 100 3D models for their armor and weapons, new quests, new story progression, class balances, hours of music, and of course, boss fight mechanics. Now, let's see what Riot's developers worked on during the year of 2015. 3D models for... I have to say that Riot goes for lower quality, because the players usually don't notice the details on the champions. Champion balancing, again, pretty much the same as Blizzard. One map. If you want to compare it to Blizzard, they actually released entire new continent, 6 different zones. And that's it, wrap it up, we're done here. That's pretty much all Riot is doing throughout one year. You could also include the lore and stories, but Riot is not too productive with that. I am going to repeat myself, but I have no idea what Riot is doing with all that money. I'm guessing that they shove it all up into esports, but even if they use half of their earnings for esports, they would still have $800 million for the game itself. Now here's something interesting. Before Riot became big, they actually used to have different mentality. And I am not saying that because I think that they got money hungry, but there are actual proofs that show you exactly what kind of game League of Legends used to be. Here are some original Summoner's Rift. Back in the day, most people didn't play for elo, they didn't play to get better, they played for fun. Back then, that's to support this however they could. A huge part of it were map skins. Whenever in skin, they even had skin for the Vancouver Olympic Games, with all the flags around the map. Why don't we have that anymore? I have no clue. Here's the thing. Riot told us that the reason why they don't have new map skins anymore is because they don't have enough resources for it. I have an article in front of me that proves otherwise. The reason they don't do that anymore is because they keep updating the map over and over again. Believe it or not, but this is the 5th version of Summoner's Rift we are playing right now. And you know what? I don't want a new one every season. To top this off, how can they say that they don't have enough resources when there are other people that already did it for free? Yes, there are people that reskinned the Summoner's Rift and covered it in snow for free. It is still better than nothing. The funny thing is that all you have to do is that's all you have to do, and Riot still decided to do nothing. I guess I'm done with this video. I'm just sad that Riot is sitting on their butts, afraid to take any risks because they know that if they fail, the damage would be too great. Do you remember when Riot was planning on making this 10v10 map? I am still very sad that game needed a bit more diversion. And thank you Riot for releasing Dominion, because that was the correct step to make. Guess why ARAM is so pop? Because it's a fun game mode. And we need more of these. Thank you all for watching this video. If you liked and agreed with what I was talking about, feel free to give me a like. And of course, if you disagree with me, give me a dislike. But before you do, at least tell me why you disagreed with me. I am sensing a lot of burning in the comment section, but still, as always, thank you, come again. So yeah, I am ready to get burned for this video, but still, this is something